Welcome into the first ever edition of Top Dogs here on Pick Dawgz and Pick Dawgz YouTube. I'm Mark Zinno. He is Jeremy Kahn. Brand new show for you guys here over at Pick Dawgz. We'll do a college show and an NFL show each and every week. This is our college edition. For those of you who don't know, Jeremy and I go back many, many years when he was younger and better looking. Probably a little bit smarter back then. But nonetheless, we go back a long, long ways. It's great to be back with you, man. It's been a long, long time. You and I both started out in Baltimore radio. Well, you were in Baltimore radio before I was, but both started out at what became 105.7 a long, long time ago. And boy, don't you miss those days?
Oh man, we had some fun. We were the guys at the radio station that felt like you get passed over all the time, and that we were the ne'er-do-wells and the nothings, and you're watching all these people get all these things, and it's like, you're not going to this event because you're not good enough. So we watched a lot of that. But those were some fun times. I mean, I'll never forget. Mark and I we were at the Super Bowl in Arizona.
I knew this story was coming up at some point in time.
Well, I'm not going to get into some of the other stuff, but I'll get into the two things that I said that were, one of them's really embarrassing. So the first one was, we watched Braveheart every night, and I turned it on and just let Braveheart play. My wife was asking me, she's like, hey, how often do you talk to Zinno? I said, well, we're talking a lot now since we're working together. And she goes, and I said, if I randomly text him, the problem with Scotland is he would answer it, and then we would just go back to bantering again.
It's full of Scots.
Yeah. But I was bragging about how I don't get starstruck, because Zinno, you got a little starstruck at some of the old Giants players are there, right?
I did. Well, that was part of my youth, man. I mean,
nothing wrong with it. But I was saying to somebody else, I don't get starstruck. And I looked over my shoulder, and I was walking next to John Elway, and I walked into a pyramid of Gatorades in front of Igor Olshansky. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. It's like, how much more embarrassing could I be? So anyway, it's good to work with you.
You could try. Yeah, it's great to be back. So format of the show for you guys to know, we'll go over 5 of the biggest games on the board. We will leave you with the show best bet each and every week as we do this here. So we'll spend some time talking about some of the biggest games on the schedule. Full disclosure, tried to do graphics, tried to add in everything. I suck. I don't.
Mark was put it so it was in the middle of the screen. It was over
to be in the middle. It was supposed to go off to one side. I quit.
Well, at one point, Mark asked me, he's like, do you want a little head? And I thought he meant something else. So we started talking, but he was asking if I wanted the picture smaller. But there you go.
I might not be able to get it back now. You see what you do? You see what you do? You totally. There it is. Okay, I found it. All right, good. Now we're back.
We'll have graphics for next time.
We'll try. I mean, we'll see if I can get it right for tomorrow for the NFL show. All right. So as we sit here and we record this thing on Thursday, just so we're all looking at the same lines, guys, and we're all talking about the same things, because obviously they may move. And we'll kind of, take these games in order of that they kick off. And we'll start with Clemson and Georgia Tech. 12th ranked Clemson laying 3.5. In Atlanta to Georgia Tech, total of 51.5. Moneyline prices, Clemson minus 154, Georgia Tech plus 128. Brent Key, and we'll start here. Brent Key has been an excellent underdog coach his entire career. And he particularly does well as a double-digit underdog. That's obviously not the case here. We know what Clemson has sort of struggled with to start the season. They lose the opener to LSU. And then they don't exactly show out last week in their game against Troy. It didn't even look impressive. But, again, with both of these teams last week playing cupcakes, I doubt a lot of teams didn't want to put anything on tape. And it wasn't even Haynes King, who started last week for Georgia Tech. I spoke to Brent Key this week here in Atlanta media. Haynes King is obviously a go. What's manifestly at stake here? Clemson needs to win this game. They lose the second game, they're going to put their college football playoff hopes in jeopardy. For Georgia Tech, a win for them, I think, Jeremy, puts them squarely in the driver's seat to actually be in the ACC championship game, given the schedule that they have ahead of them, which is very, very winnable until they play Georgia the final week of the regular season. So Haynes King is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. The real question is can Georgia Tech's defense slow down a Clemson offense? Georgia Tech's defense is now run by Blake Gideon, former guy who played at Texas, was a defensive assistant at Texas. The last 2 years, the Georgia Tech defense has been much improved. Tyler Santucci, who came from Duke, went to Georgia Tech. Now he's the Ravens linebackers coach, so he's certainly ascending. but now they have Blake Gideon running it. And you're dealing with a Clemson team that has won 9 straight games against the Yellow Jackets. And really, a lot of them haven't been close. There was a short 14-8 game a couple of years ago. I think that was Cade Klubnik's freshman year, if I recall, in the game. But overall, Jeremy, if Georgia Tech is going to win and or cover this game, because I would tell you, I don't think the spread matters in a game like this. I have a hard time believing it lands on 3. I think Clemson wins handily or Georgia Tech pulls off the upset is kind of the two ways I think it's go. But if Georgia Tech's going to win this game or cover it, they're going to have to play with a lead and do it early.
Yeah, it is annoying having Haynes King and Jamal Haynes and trying to figure out who's who. Yes. And maybe it's the before and after on
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune. Yes.
Yeah, so, I knew exactly where you were going. I thought Jamal Haynes King.
Yeah. Well, Jamal Haynes, by the way, my model that I've been using, I've been successful with college prop plays for the guys that can bet it, like him under 2.5 reception. It's juiced up heavily. It's like minus 180, but I think it's a good play. But as you're talking about it, I almost agree with everything you're saying about this because I have that same feeling. Either this is the Georgia Tech upset or this is Clemson just kind of handling business saying, hey, all right, we didn't show out week 1. But we are the big dog on the block. And you asked what's at stake. I think everything's at stake with these ACC teams because if the ACC has another down year, I think next year is when we see the super – it may happen either way, but we see the super conferences and the Big Ten and the SEC come and pick them apart, and we'll see how crazy college football gets if that ever does happen. But I do like Georgia Tech in this spot. And again, maybe it's the fact that I can't get away from home dogs sometimes. I like the way Georgia Tech's playing. I like how they're coached.
Yeah.
Former offensive line. I mean, you've got a lot there. They're going to run the football, and if Clemson can't stop it, it's going to be a long day. But I would lean Georgia Tech here.
Here's the thing, and let's – if you take out the cupcakes they played last week versus Troy and Gardner-Webb, and you go back to their opening games, one, kind of shocked that Clemson couldn't run the ball at all on LSU. And I don't really think the game script ever was a case where – they shouldn't have been running, right? They had a 3-0 lead. They were up 10-3, right? You know, they were never really trailing until the fourth quarter. So it's not like Clemson shied away from the run. They couldn't do anything on the ground. I don't know how much success Georgia Tech will have being able to stop the run. I think that's a key part of it. Go back to Georgia Tech's 27-20 win over Colorado, which for those in the crowd here who bought my premium play, dumbass Georgia Tech over 27.5 lands on 27, of course. Why? Because they turned the ball over 3 times on their first 3 possessions. Like, I don't know if that game was going to be that close as much as it was at the end of it. And Georgia Tech clearly should have gone over 27 in that game against a bad defense. This isn't a bad defense, but Haynes King, go back to it. Haynes King had 156 rushing yards in the game. He only had $143 passing, Jeremy. So that's what level of dual threat he is. And honestly, I don't know how much they're going to try to throw the ball. If Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU offense, you know, couldn't really muster up much in the passing game, you know, I don't know that Haynes King and the Georgia Tech offense are equally going to be able to do as much. I think that there were a lot of short passes for Nussmeier and the LSU. It wasn't like a big down the field game. And if Georgia Tech is going to have any success in the passing game, part of that's going to have to come from Haynes King taking off, like in just designed runs.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to be a big part of that running game. But as you're talking about it too, like one of the things that kind of jumped out to me just looking at Georgia Tech, facing Colorado week 1, and I was doing some more research on Colorado. Colorado, their defense is sneaky good. You know, as all the talk about Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter last year, I think their defense is going to have to be what carries them throughout the year. And Georgia Tech going in week 1 and pulling off the victory, I think it says a little bit more to me than maybe it would the most. But yeah, if you're talking about how you got to attack this team, because I really felt like LSU, it felt like they were just waiting for Clemson to make a mistake, and they got their opportunities. And then when I look at this game, I still think, as I said, I think Georgia Tech's going to keep this game close and maybe even pull off the upset. I mean, what, the 3.5, if you're getting it, the hook always makes me look a little, you know, kind of crooked-eyed at the game when it goes from 3 to 3.5 and even higher, but we'll wait and see. I think this is one of those spots where I'm going to be on Georgia Tech, though.
Yeah, Brent Key 14-6 as an underdog in his tenure as head coach at Georgia Tech, including 6-6 straight up in outright games as a double-digit dog. So we'll see if he can continue that trend. 12 o'clock in Atlanta. All right, next game up, we will stay not in the state of Georgia, but with the team from the state of Georgia, as Georgia and Tennessee will play in Knoxville, a game where the spread now is Georgia laying, let me just double check a couple of other books here. So Georgia's laying 4.5, totals at 49.5. Money line, Georgia minus 178, Tennessee plus 146. Now, here's something interesting about this game. Line open up at around 7. Early in the week, it was announced that both Tennessee starting cornerbacks were going to be out for the game, and yet the line keeps dropping. Fishy. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this much. I would only bet Tennessee here. I would not bet Georgia. I probably will stay off the game altogether. I have a funny feeling. There's a part of me that feels like both Georgia Tech and Tennessee are the right sides pre-game going in, but I have a feeling both of them might be square. I'm probably staying off both of these games, to be honest with you personally. But nonetheless, here's the other thing. Part of the reason why this line is dropping and part of the reason why there's some conjecture about Georgia is their offense. It has not looked good. It doesn't look good. They only scored 28 points against Austin Peay. And that's P-E-A-Y, not the way Jeremy wants to spell it.
Austin Poo.
Oh, that's what they were, Austin Poo. And you know, whatever the game was against Marshall, it was against Marshall at Sanford Stadium. I don't know if Gunnar Stockton, the Georgia quarterback, is anywhere near ready for what he's about to walk into in Knoxville. One of the most intimidating environments in all of college football, and they're not going to make it easy on him. Regardless of Tennessee's offense not being as great as we thought it may be or what it was last year, although Aguilar has played really well through 2 games, again, against Syracuse and, East Tennessee. Not much. I mean, they did put up 72 last week, so the guy does have 5 touchdowns on the year. This will be a different challenge. But, again, Tennessee feels like the right side here. The home field advantage should be enough. I also kind of take the same philosophy, Tennessee outright, or Georgia somehow is that much better than Tennessee, and I don't know if they are.
Yeah, I kind of like what you said about Tennessee here. And again, if we go back to week 1, everybody was talking about Arch Manning being a generational talent. And then he walks into Ohio State at the Horseshoe to play his first ever road game and got a rude awakening. Now, granted, I understand the teams and, who coming off the national championship, but all the talking heads made him a total bust now, and he's not going to do anything anymore. I don't see that being the case necessarily. But when it comes down to this situation, you are going into what you said, one of the most hostile environments. And you can't tell me that you need to take a couple hits to kind of feel like you're in there. It's loud. It's such a great home environment there in Tennessee. So I like this spot for Tennessee. I think I'm going to be on them. And everything you said, like the line movement is a little odd here with some of the news that's coming out. So you know how I am. I look at that stuff and start circling it, and then I want to come back to it. And
I know. The line movement tells you it's all Tennessee, right? I mean, even with their starting corner, I even tweeted early in the week, I'm like, oh, both their starting quarterbacks are out, and the line's moving in favor of Tennessee. You know what to do, right? Like that tells you to go run to the window and get Tennessee. Here's the thing I don't know, and this is one of the reasons why Georgia felt a little bit undervalued this year, Jeremy, was because going into the year, like, I don't know that we had a real good sense of what their defense is. It's not the same Georgia defense that we're used to seeing every year that, makes it so difficult for opponents to score. Like, I mean, there's a world where Stetson Bennett, ran an offense against a defense that actually scored more points than they were allowed. Like, they allowed 6.7 points a game, and their defense actually accounted for a touchdown almost every single game. So, like Stetson Bennett won a national title based off of the fact that his defense did everything for him. Like,
you mean the starting D line for the Eagles?
Yes, he pretty much. And spit and speeding, driving really fast. Anyway, those are different problems in Athens. Which, by the way, I've been out there. It's like a pretty cool college town, by the way.
Yeah,
it's worth going to. Sanford Stadium's a good environment. I've been to a couple of games out there. Doesn't really.
Did you walk in there with your extra medium T-shirt on and just kind of point around and tell everybody who you were?
No,
Oh.
no. I tried to stand on the sideline with the cheerleaders and hope they wouldn't, let me in. So there is that. Anyway,
Well,
but Georgia.
But hey, real quick, being where you're at though, like college football is king, right?
Yeah. I mean, my Saturdays have become infinitely better than my Sundays.
Yeah.
Much, much better. Like I'd rather be watching college football on a Saturday than the NFL any day of the week. That said, again, Georgia's defense, I think, is the real question mark here. Like, how much do we trust them? How much do we believe in them? Heupel is a good OC, man. He's a good play caller. And I think we've got enough data points on that to know that he's going to be able to score in this thing. Look, I mean, let me ask you this much. If I had to force you to pick a total over under 49.5, it feels like that's a big total for a Georgia game. For a Georgia-Tennessee game, that feels like a high number. Like, I lean on the under, and if you lean on the under, theoretically, you're leaning on the dog because that's what's correlated. But if I do numbers here, like Tennessee has to get to 24 to win this thing. I don't know if they win this only scoring 20. Like, to me, that's what it feels like. 23-24 is the bare minimum they have to get to. And games, because me, like I do a lot of game script, right? Like I always put, the game script to me says that if they land on 20 or less, no bueno. Like, Georgia still should be able to muster up 20 plus points in this game.
Well, in these types of games, it's amazing how much it comes down to a special teams play, a defensive score, or all these weird things. I mean, we've had, and if you want to call it a rivalry game, all those top teams in the SEC, when they play each other, they get up for the game and you got it circled. And this has to be one for Georgia. That being said, whether or not we have a muffed punt like we had in the Baylor game last week, or someone misses a chip shot field goal or something. I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying where Tennessee needs to get to, but I still have some questions. I need to see Georgia in a tough environment like this to see how they react. I think they're going to be fine, but will there be some shell shock on a young quarterback coming in?
Who has the coaching edge?
Oh man. I would say Georgia.
Yeah, I would tend to think Georgia. I think Kirby has the edge there. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a real litmus test. I mean, and that's the thing, probably why I'm staying both off this game and the other one. There's a variety of outcomes in my head that I think are plausible on both sides. It's not like I can sit there and come up with a game script that goes, the only way that the underdog would win is if they do this, right? And I go, or the only way the favorite covers is if this happens, and there's a lot more outcomes that favor the underdog. I get stuck here. Like, I game script everything when I handicap. So I have too much on both sides for me really to get comfortable. I know what my head tells me because of the numbers and what it looks like there. So the numbers say take Tennessee, but we'll be a little bit cautious in going forward. All right, next game here on the board, number 18, South Florida against number 5, Miami. You got 17.5 points that Miami is laying game, obviously, at Hard Rock Stadium. High total, 57.5. South Florida plus 520. Miami minus 750.
So for me here, let me start with this because I was on Florida last week, to which I had to go and apologize to everyone.
I was on Florida too. That was that was the only game I got wrong last week.
Yeah, that was a rough one because I was sitting here talking about overreaction week 2, and I'm like, did I overreact? Because South Florida beating Boise, it didn't do as much for me as maybe as it did for some other people.
I'm with you. Like, I thought they were set up for a letdown after that win.
And Florida just did Florida-like things under Billy Napier, right? This is what they do. This is the best team Florida's had since then. And I don't mean to go back to last week's game, but when you lose outright as a 17.5-point favorite, same thing we're seeing this week.
The problem is that, like, that game I don't think that game was on Napier. There were a ton of bad penalties. They had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalties. And in reality, like, this is my thing with this game. If that idiot doesn't spit on the South Florida player and Florida wins that game 16-15, 2 things happen, okay? Number 1, Florida is still ranked. And number 2, that line opens up as LSU minus 6.5, not LSU minus 9.5. Now, that's what happened for Florida in that game. We're going to get to that game in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm off base here. You were talking about the wrong thing, but go ahead. South Florida. I apologize.
No, but I mean, I think it's important what you're bringing up. Looking into this, had it gone the other way, had he not got the penalty, had Florida just win, South Florida's not ranked. People aren't going, oh my God, they beat Boise, they beat Florida. Yep. And then this line looks appropriate. And I think people think it doesn't look appropriate because South Florida is now ranked and they beat what we deem to be two good teams. Miami came in and beat Notre Dame and handled business. I mean, I'm going to be on this game. I love Miami here in this spot. And I did apologize to South Florida and say, sorry, I'm not familiar with your game because they won outright. But again, I got to go back to where I've always looked at these things and felt like, the public gets these things wrong time after time after time, where it's like, oh my God, that team's ranked and they're getting this many points. I have to take it. Whether they're ranked or not just has to do with a stupid vote from some people that don't even watch the damn games.
Yeah. My thing is this. One, I don't think Miami was necessarily the much better team in the opener against Notre Dame. Like, do me a favor, okay? Put another wide receiver there, okay, on that catch that the dude made that was Odell Beckham Jr. like. Put any other wide receiver there that's not that dude. You know that play results in an interception. It results in an interception. It's either deflected or he misses the guy completely and it's picked off because that's exactly where it was going. Right? It's a bad pass. Guy made a great play. Now, I only say that to bring up the fact that that score literally was the difference in the outcome of the game. It was a one-score game. And that play would have been monumental, and we would look at this through a different prism. So we don't. I still have questions about Carson Beck. We didn't learn anything about Miami last week, right, against Bethune-Cookman. And here's the thing that I will say about Carson Beck. He does not have the cover of the Georgia athletes on his side that he had when he played here. There's a different level of athlete at Miami than there is at Georgia. Sorry, you fans. That's just the reality. Georgia recruits and gets better players than Miami. The proof is in the pudding. They're a national championship team every year, and you're coached by Mario Cristobal. Like that's the reality of it. So I don't know how good Carson Beck is going to be able to separate. Now, again, fortunately for him, he's playing a team this week with lesser athletes than Miami, which is part of what my handicap was last week with Florida. Like, Florida should just out-athlete South Florida. And they didn't. So maybe I can give a little bit of credit here. But the other thing for me that sells me with South Florida here is they have one goal here, Jeremy. Because South Florida knows, and they've already talked about it publicly, they are the leader in the clubhouse and the front dog pulling the sled to be the group of 5 team in the college football playoff. All they have to do this week is not get blown out. All they have to do this week is lose by 2 scores, and that's it. And so I think the back door is wide open here, that South Florida is not going to stop coming. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen 8 weeks from now? No one's going to remember the back door. No one's going to remember the optics. They're going to look at the final score, and they're going to go, wow, look how well they played against Miami, even if they get – so their goal is not to get blown. I think the motivation is super high here for the Bulls, not to get blown.
A former male cheerleader telling me that the back door is wide open. It does certain things to your mind.
It took you about 22 minutes to get that joke in, so it's about time that you finally worked it in.
Well, but I'm on the opposite side of this, and I think you present that side of it really well for South Florida because they're kind of in the catbird seat if they could, if they don't get embarrassed here because they'd probably be favored in maybe all of their conference games. I got to check the road and home, see who they play, because it wouldn't shock me to see them be an underdog on the road. But I think this number is right, and I think this is what the number would have been had Florida won. Maybe it gets a little bit more inflated, but I can't get away from the Miami side here.
I think there's 3 touchdowns. I would say it's 20.5 if Florida wins last week. I absolutely think it's 20.5. So
that's why I think we're catching some value here.
Yeah, no, there is some fairness to that. Speaking of Florida, let's get to that game. Florida will take on LSU down in Death Valley at 7:30. We're looking at LSU laying now currently 7.5. Totals at 47.5. Money line, Florida plus 225, LSU minus 280. And again, this thing opened at 9.5. 7.5 seems like a much more appropriate number. And I would argue again, if Florida won last week, didn't matter whether it was 16, 15 or not. This line opens at 6.5. I guarantee you it opens at 6.5. There's no way there would, and I missed the number. And Florida still may make the card, right? Like it should. There's a world where this number doesn't matter, and I say that like if Florida is in this game, that means they're going to be close enough to win it. The only way there's 2 points may matter is backdoor late. That's where it would come in play.
Do you think there's any chance we got the look ahead with Florida? I mean, with South Florida beating Boise and you being at home, you'd feel like you don't get that, but maybe they were too focused on what was coming up.
And that's something I just missed. I looked last week, looked more at the South Florida letdown spot, and Florida should have had an easier time beating. And I think that, look, if they don't get those touchdowns called back on penalties, the game unfolds differently. Plays are called differently. You have to acknowledge that. I don't know that the result would have been any different. I'm just saying, like, you call plays differently when you're down 10-0 than when it's 3-0. You call plays differently down when it's 17-3 versus when it's 6-3. Like, that matters. So I think that's part of it. But I just don't know that LSU is better than a touchdown, better than any SEC team at this point, like even middle of the road SEC team. We know Kentucky's bad. We know Mississippi State's not going to be good. Other than the bottom teams here, when you look at all the middle teams, and Florida's certainly a middle team, I don't think LSU is a touchdown better than them.
By the way, Mark, did you see the AP voter that had Florida 2 spots ahead of where they were last week after losing? People
are too infatuated with the loss column in college football. Like, I get the AP voter made an ass out of themselves and probably should have just acknowledged, hey, I didn't watch the game and I made a mistake, and just ate it. When they say wear it, you just kind of got to wear it,
Yeah, I get that. But I think
I've stepped in it publicly many times and saying things we probably shouldn't have said. Just wear it,
No, there's no question. And again, like looking at the match, this is one of the best rosters. Well, it is, in my opinion, the best roster that Billy Napier's had. So do I just buy into a total letdown that they had against South Florida? No, I think you're right with what the number should be.
Do you like desperate teams? Do you like betting on desperate teams? Florida is as desperate as me when you and I first started hanging out.
Yeah. You were desperate?
For you, yes, definitely.
Oh, you didn't have any problems in that department. You were fine. But like, again, with talking about desperate teams, I love those spots because to me, like betting on college football and betting on the NFL, or you can pick any sport you want, but primarily I look for spots. There's certain situations college that I think
are very situational, 100%.
That I just can't pass up. And again, I do think the value's inflated here, and I would lean towards Florida in this matchup. I want to find out more about LSU because I hate Brian Kelly, and that's strong. I really hate Brian Kelly. I think the guy's
what did he do to you?
He's one of the biggest. That fake, stupid accent he had when he.
Well, again, wear it. That was stupid. Should have never done it. Go
him
back.
In the video with his kids, the guys he's drafting, pointing, and he's a clown. He's an absolute clown.
I mean, like clown, like how? Like he amuses you?
Yeah, like he amuses me.
He amuses.
No, I thought you said Spider. I thought you had said.
No, you're not all right. Dance the drink over here. All right. And by the way, speaking of situational spots, I'll throw something at you real quick. I don't know if I have the balls to do it, but Boston College, after flying to Michigan State, losing a heartbreak, and then has to fly all the way out to Stanford that is my disgusting catch-up spot at 10:30 on Saturday night is to hammer Stanford plus 10.5.
I love that because I call those vomit plays.
Yes.
As I said on Monday night when I took Justin Jefferson's under receptions, I said, yeah, it feels like a vomit play because he can blow up at any time, but it was the right side to be on. So again,
I hope I'm about 12 beers deep by the time I make this bet and don't really give a crap. Pass out by 11:30 and wake up in the morning and hope I won. All right.
We see some weird stuff, man. And that wouldn't shock me at all seeing Stanford play well against a tired team.
I also think, and back to Florida LSU, I also think there's a way overvalue on, not that's the right way to phrase it. I think people are it's a tough place to play in Death Valley at night. But that's like influences the public to bet that way. That doesn't influence me as much from a standpoint when it comes to another SEC matchup. Like Florida is aware of what LSU is. This is not, if this was a non-conference thing, I'd look at it a little bit differently. I'm not underscoring how important it is and home field advantage in the SEC matters, but that was part of, I think, the inflation in the line early was the acknowledgement of how tough it is to win down there in night games in Baton Rouge.
Tough place to play. I mean, they actually made the guys that lined the field work twice as hard because they had to mark the 5-yard markers too. Why'd they do that? Can they not count down there?
It is kind of it is. It's kind of annoying. Like we get it. If there's a 10 and a 20, the line in the middle usually would be the 15.
Yeah.
I didn't need that much help. Maybe LSU students aren't that smart. People
are going to get some hate mail here.
Add it to the list. All right. Speaking of hate mail, Texas A&M and Notre Dame Aggies and the Fighting Irish. Insane Irish.
It's
sorry.
mine.
It's mine. My island. Notre Dame laying 6.5. And this is a total of 49.5. Texas A&M plus 205 and Notre Dame minus 250. I think this line is too big. Like for Notre Dame, okay, with a brand new quarterback and a brand new everything on offense, I know their defense is going to be really good. Yes, Jeremiah Love is going to present some problems, but to me, when I look at this team and I look at Notre Dame, like offensively, I'm not sure I think that they can do what they need to do, to be honest with you. Like Miami, the game against Miami, they only managed 24 points. They only scored how many points in the first half of that game? I think it was it was 21. It was 14-7 at half. Like A&M's got a better defense than Miami. And I don't know that they're going to have a ton of success here. So I think this number is too big. I think Notre Dame can win this game. I don't know if they can cover that number. I don't trust Notre Dame's offense. Now, there is a ton of conjecture about Reed and Marcus Reed and Marcel Reed, rather, and the A&M offense. This is a coming out game for A&M. This is a game where if A&M is going to make a statement about they are legit in the SEC, this is where it happens. They've got 2 games under their belt. Granted, it was against UTSA and Utah State. They put up over 40 in both of them. The only way I think Notre Dame wins this game is if it goes over, because that means they can score.
Well, the thing I'll say here is, I'm on the opposite side of it. I'm on Notre Dame. I feel like they have to. This is a statement game that they have to make, and I like Jeremiah Love a lot. I think an anytime touchdown looks good. I like some of his props for him to go over. That being said, I mean, when you look at the matchup and you look at the number, when I first looked at it, I thought it was overinflated. But I really think Notre Dame needs to come out after that loss in week 1 and make a statement here. And Texas A&M is one of those teams where we've watched it before when they go on the road. You're like, they don't look anything like they do at home. That's one of the toughest places to play in college football at Texas A&M. But I'm going to lean towards Notre Dame here. In full disclosure, I don't know that this is absolutely going to be a play for me on Saturday. I'm still going to look at some other stuff. But being forced to pick, I would take Notre Dame.
Again, I think that this is one of these games where when it's over, everyone's going to go, oh, typical A&M. They always think that they're better than they are and they're not that good and everything else, and people will dismiss them. Or it's going to be the game where everybody looks at it and goes, is Notre Dame really going to miss the playoff? Right? Like, they have 2 losses and they still got a game against USC, and I think they got one more tough game on their schedule. I forget who it is. I got to pull it up here.
Mark, I think you'll understand this. It's another quote from Steven, but in a different movie. I think A&M's calling home and saying, Mom, I'm not going to make it home in time for supper.
Not going to be home in time for supper.
By the way, this is always we could talk all day in movie quotes. Like it could be.
Yes, you have to be around us to know.
Yeah.
Jeremy and I could have a whole conversation without ever uttering an original thought.
Yes.
So
is that bad or good?
Some people would call it talented, but they don't, they have to get a chance to know us. So anyway,
thanks, Mom.
Jokes will be a big part of Top Dogs here. So, and yes, I decided to call us Top Dogs because I think we're better than everybody else. Can I say that out loud?
No, don't say that.
I just did.
I don't think I'm better than anyone. We'll see. What I'll do is let the record speak for yourself, depending on how things go.
You want to take the humble route?
Yeah, I'm always humble.
How is your record?
In the NFL, I'm doing well. I think in college football, I've kind of had like a mix. I had a winning weekend last weekend, hit on a couple of the weeknight games, which has really kind of helped the percentage. I had a bad week.
Can I tell you something?
What?
Nobody cares.
Oh,
They only care. They only care about what we're going to do next.
Well, that's fair.
Give out a show best bet.
The NFL, I do like seeing my name at the top of the leaderboard. Now that I'm talking about it, watch it change this weekend.
Top of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Screw you, TJ Hawkinson.
You're still up there.
At least I can get it up still. All right. I don't know about you. Okay. We'll do this every show. Trying to put a best bet together, one that you guys could take actionable information to the window and ride with us here. We will stay in the SEC. Arkansas will meet Ole Miss, 17th ranked Rebs. They are currently, let me pull this number up here. Did it get to 7.5 or 8.5? Where are we? What number is it?
Some spots, I think it is 7.5. Yeah.
I'm still seeing 7.5s out there, and a total of 61.5. Ole Miss minus 260, Arkansas plus 210. You and I both agree that Ole Miss is the side here. Tell the folks why.
Yeah, it'll be a premium play for me. I don't even mind saying it. I'm going to be all over this game. I always look at these things, looking at the line movement and the way it's going with the public putting all their money going up against Ole Miss and on Arkansas. I think this is a perfect spot. And I'll say this, like Lane Kiffin he's an a-hole, but he's a pretty damn good a-hole, but I don't know what that means. No, he's a damn good head coach, an offensive play designer. And I think the scheme and the system that they have there is great. I think they come out, and again, we keep talking about statements. There are teams that want to come out and say, everybody's like, oh, Ole Miss lost too much. They lost their wide receivers. They lost Jackson Dart. And all you do is come back and reload and go back and put up points. So I like them a lot.
Yeah. I'll add a couple of things in here. One, last week, Ole Miss goes on the road at Kentucky, a tough spot for them. And, they don't cover by the hizzle for shizzle dizzle because of a last-second field goal, under 30-second field goal left by Kentucky. Still in that game on the road, this was an Ole Miss offense that racked up 455 yards. And they didn't particularly play well otherwise. They had 2 turnovers. They were only 3 of 13 on third down. They could have beaten that Kentucky team by a lot worse. Look, Sam Pittman, I think, is on his way out. Like, Arkansas may end up being the worst team in the SEC this year when it's all said and done. This is not a good spot for Arkansas to go into Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin is great at home. And if you remember, Jeremy, last week, Lane Kiffin acknowledged after the game, sorry to the gamblers out there.
I was just going to bring it up.
And what he's really saying to his boosters is, don't worry, I'll cover next week. That's exactly, I'll read between the lines there. He knows what his boosters do. He knows that those guys bet on this team religiously. He's not going to allow it to happen 2 weeks in a row, right? If he has got a lead, he's going to keep his foot on the gas pedal on this thing. If he can find a way to make sure that Arkansas doesn't get back in this game, he's going to. Look, I would tell you this much. If you're going to bet Arkansas, bet them in the first quarter, bet them in the first half, because if they ain't close early, Jeremy, they ain't going to be close late. This is too good of an Ole Miss offense for them to play catch up with those guys.
Yeah. And again, as I said, this was one of the first games when I looked. So typically how I break down a slate is I start to look, I'm looking where the money's going. I'm looking at different line movements. And then, of course, you have your feels for different matchups and knowing spots that you like to get. This was one of those ones, as soon as I looked at the slate, I'm like, I'm going to be all over Ole Miss, and I already know it. Like, it's the first team that I wrote down for Saturday's slate. And I do everything old-fashioned. These are all my, Mark, I don't know if you can see all my papers that I still – both sides. I write on both sides. No paper gets wasted.
I heard you like it on both sides.
Yeah, well, hey, what are you going to do? More options. As you look at it, this is one of those games where I agree with you. I didn't want to bring it up initially with the whole gambling thing that was brought up, and he acknowledged it, but it's a big thing.
It is a big thing. Guys, coaches acknowledging betting, it's not like they don't know the lines. That's like saying the coach in his hometown doesn't know what the local press is saying about the team. Of course they know. They don't address it because they're not stupid unless somebody brings it up to them. But nonetheless, we both like Ole Miss here, minus 7.5. I think they cover this game kind of easily. Remember, they put up 63 last time they played this team. And things did not get better talent-wise in Fayetteville from last year. So, all right, that'll do it for our first edition here of Top Dogs. Give us a follow on Twitter. You can see there below, at Mark Zeno, at Jeremy Kahn. Make sure you go to our premium pages over at pickdawgz.com. and get our plays. Buy the 3-day package, guys, for college NFL. Get your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Smartest thing you can do for both of our pages here. And as we go along here, maybe we'll put something together in tandem where you get the whole show's picks.
Yeah.
That way we can give people 2-for-1s.
Well, they can always pair up handicappers too. So you can get Mark's picks and my picks in different packages.
That's
and
probably the smartest thing to do because we are the smartest people.
If you want to have a 3-way with Mark and I, all you have to do is go to pickdawgz.com. Is that how we should put it, Mark, or no? No, that's not. I don't think that works.
I think we can end the show on that note.
Right.
If you guys are in for the little menage action, join us. And we will make sure you guys check out the NFL show as we head into week 2 of the NFL season. For Jeremy Conn, I'm Mark Zinno. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, smash that like button on the show, leave some comments below. Let us know what you love, even if it is Jeremy's idea of how to package us together. And we'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us.